day to you. My name is Fred Oakman, and as always with me today is Mr. Jake Peters. We are PS This Is Awesome, a PlayStation podcast. This is episode 284, a show where we share our feelings about the current state of PlayStation. And before we get on with the show, I want to invite you all to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, youtube.com/PS This Is Awesome. If you want to make fun of our trophy list on the PlayStation Network, you can find me at anchorless_81 and Mr. Jake Peters at jakesaw01. And as always, you can write the show at psthisisawesome@gmail.com. Most importantly, don't forget to share the show with your friends. Be sure to leave comments and rate the podcast as you see fit. And as a reminder, this is a video podcast as well. You can watch the show if you prefer over to YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe to that. And for new and or long-time listeners, we now have a Patreon. You can support our show for $1. And the Patreon tier is called the One and Only $1 Club. So head over to www.patreon.com/PSThisIsAwesome to become a $1 patron. Get a free die-cut vinyl sticker in the mail and a shout-out on our show. With that out of the way, Jake, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm kind of sick today. I don't know if it's allergies or if I'm actually sick. It's kind of hard to say, but throat's bugging me, so you have to bear with me a little bit, but I'm here.
Yeah, that sucks to feel like shit. I get it, man. I don't feel like garbage, but it's just been like a really muggy weekend. And it's kind of made me feel kind of sick being out in like the humidity and stuff. It's really weird. You look at the weather and there's like a lot of places that are like, yeah, we haven't seen this kind of temperature in forever, except for like the last 3 years. It's the hottest it's ever been. So it's just like, wow. I don't know, man. The weather has me kind of feeling gross, but outside of that, I'm doing all right. I just got back from a motorcycle ride not long ago, and I haven't been doing anything exciting. Friday, I had a gig at the Lake Resort, and they have a really nice control surface there now that connects to their Wi-Fi system. It looks like a traditional mixing board that controls all the inputs on the wall there. So that's actually really nice that you have, we if we came as a band, would have access to be able to just use that in-house system, which would be really, they have a sub under the stage. It's really nice. Shaner set it all up. So I was there and got to mess with that a little bit. But aside of that, man, video game news is a little slim. And my experience with gaming has been, why do I not have the right notes up? Do I not have the right notes up? This is weird because I know I saved it. Let me go back because I had all the notes up. Give me 1 second, listeners. I guess I should have looked a little further into this. Do you have new notes, or does this say 284 and all the old notes for you?
I haven't even looked at the notes yet.
That's interesting. Because I did it on my phone and I saved it. So give me 1 second, because there's a chance that maybe...
You probably saved it in the wrong spot.
Yeah. But it's weird because it says 284. Wait, we're on...
284 is last week.
Yeah, we're on 285. I probably just have it saved in the wrong spot. So bear with me, listeners. You get what you pay for, as I joke. There was a band called Jawbreaker. And they're still doing shows from time to time. And their singer, Blake, at one point... announced they were like they were some sort of show, and they were blowing up, but like the entry fee was still like like $4 or $5 to get in, and people were complaining because they were like talking a lot and tuning between their songs. He goes, listen guys, you get what you pay for. Like this is what we've got. I'm sorry, I'm still trying to talk and find this. It can be under docs. Let me go to docs. I went to Drive. I want to go to docs. We use Google for all this crap. Play, chat, calendar, Drive, shopping, docs. Here it is. Oh, brother boy. Oh, it's probably under PSTIA, not under me. Hold on. I'm so sorry, guys. This is kind of the way this week has been. It's just kind of been like, you think everything's set up and you're going to knock one out of the park, and then here it is. I found it. And then something just folds onto itself. You're like, what the hell? This was all set up. So I do have it. I don't know how to share this with you. Let me just click share. If you just go to the PS, this is awesome. Go to Docs, Jake. It's in there instead of the drive. All right.
I don't have access to that.
Why not?
Because I don't have any of the login or anything. You're the only one that uses that. Right. Just fucking share it with me.
I can't figure it out. Hold on.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Hold on.
That's what happens when you use a fucking Mac all the time.
Yeah, it is what happens. Yeah, when you use a Mac and then like when you try to do shit just on your phone.
You open the document.
I'm literally
and then
in
you just
it
go
right
file,
now.
share.
Yeah, it's not
file, share with others.
Hold on, I'm there now. My taskbar wasn't there, dude. Jacob D Peters at Gmail. Send. And now I got it. All right, there we go. There, it's sent. These are the notes, my dude. I'm sure the listeners are just dying right now. Yeah. So I'm not editing any of that shit out. So, anyways, we're just gonna jump right to it and talk about games that we're playing. We're a PlayStation podcast, obviously, and that's why you're tuned in. So just pretend we said all kinds of interesting things there, and we peeled the curtain back a little bit for you for what it's like to do a podcast kind of last minute when it's a labor of love. So anyways, dude, I'm still playing Dark Descent, and I'm kind of pissed off because I did the research, and I'm on the last mission, and it doesn't take a day. But I only have 4 instead of 5 on my squad, and I pushed it even further after the last podcast. I'm like, I'm gonna get through it, and then I'm at a point where I just can't. It's impossible to get past this part. Like it literally is impossible. So I wanted to retain that save. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just start a new one on like the easy story mode. And I went to do that, and then I kind of got like a wild hair. I was like, I'm gonna go back and try the previous save that I had, and it overwrote it. So I lost it. All my fucking progress gone. And they have multiple save when you create a new game. You know, when you create a new game, it says, okay, you have 3 slots. It's so antiquated. It's like the one was there, and I created a new game under the second slot, which was empty, but it still overwrote over my first slot. So it's gone. I don't know if I'm going back to that fucking game, but I did start Alan Wake Remastered, and I gotta say, despite its jankiness, it's leaps and bounds better than Control so far. And this is the original Alan Wake. Story's fantastic. It's like Uncharted, but a scary story. It's like they do the story beats really well. And the sound design is fucked on this remaster. I have surround sound in my house, and sometimes stuff just comes through the front speakers. Sometimes it's all the speakers. There's massive dips in raises in volume for no reason whatsoever. The cutscenes are 16:9. The rest of the game is full screen. It feels half-assed. Everything about the remaster feels a little half-assed, but the game itself, I think, is worth playing. As long as you're not expecting like the most shiny thing in the world. Now, keep in mind, I've never played the original, but I would think that some of these issues would have got hammered out in QC or something. In play testing, that maybe they couldn't fix the audio issues. Maybe they didn't have the original audio. Maybe they couldn't get a hold of the voice actors. Maybe they had to re-record stuff and they didn't put the time in. But the cutscene audio typically seems to be forward in the mix for the surround sound, and then the most cinematic parts of the game are just coming out of your front, and then like the actual gameplay is full surround. But then like some things are way louder behind you than what you think they should be, like beeping noises and stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's really poking through in the mix, and it just sounds not quite right. It doesn't sit right, the sound. The voice acting's fine. It does feel a little dated, but the story's great so far, and it's at least able to be followed. Like, even though it's a confusing thing that's happening to Alan Wake, you're on that mission. You're on that with him. You're on this weird experience with him, and you're confused for the same reasons that he's confused. You're not confused because you don't understand the story, which is the problem I have with Control. Like, I don't understand Control. Like, I don't understand why I'm even there, what I'm doing. Like, at least with Alan Wake, like, you feel like you're on the journey with him. And you're like, yeah, this is fucking weird, you know? Not like I don't understand what's going on. So that's the difference between the two games, I think. But I'm enjoying it, and it's one of the plus games this month. So if anyone's interested, I think there's 6. I beat the first episode. Now, this game, I don't believe was released episodically, was it?
No.
So the presentation, if you didn't know any better, you would think that it was released episodically because you beat the first episode of the game, and it gives you a recap before you start episode 2 of everything that had just happened in episode 1, which it was like previously, and it's like very cinematic in that way. They could have easily released this. They could have blazed a trail and done it as episodic releases, but I think it's even before that time. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, so I'm glad I picked it up, and I'm glad I'm playing it, and I'm gonna get through this probably this week. But Jake, what are you playing?
I mean, nothing. Excuse me, nothing new. I getting through Diablo IV. I've been playing a little bit more Zelda, and I dabbled a little bit in this game called, let me see here. This game called Trepang 2. I'd heard that this was a game that is similar to an older PlayStation. It was like a first-person shooter called Fear.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
Which was really cool. It was like a horror themed first person shooter, and it was pretty cool. I think they made 3 of those games. It's been a long time since they came out, but there's been this talk about this game it's on Steam, but it's called Trepang 2. Trepang is the developer. I don't really know why the title of the game is Trepang 2, but because I don't think this is the second one, although I guess I don't know that for sure. But it's coming to PS5 eventually. I don't know when it's coming to PS5.
Okay.
But I downloaded the demo on PC just to kind of dick around with it a little bit. But I barely got into it. Like, I'm still not even doing anything. So I don't really have a whole lot to say about that. But Diablo, I'm on Act 5. I believe there's 6 acts and then like an epilogue or something. So I'm getting pretty close. I'm getting towards the end of that game. I'd like to get finished up on that because I'm really anxious to get to Final Fantasy 16. I really do want to play that. So, and I don't want to start it before I get done with those other games. So I don't really have a lot to say other than, basically I'm playing the same shit.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of typical for you and I. Like, we get into something, we just play it, which is what you're supposed to do. We're buying these things, might as well enjoy them and play them. Very good, man. We're going to skip listener feedback because it plays right into the show topic. So I wanted to do a brief show topic. We talked about it last episode. We had some listeners contributing, and so we're going to talk about that briefly. And the question I posed for everybody was that, if somebody is new to PlayStation, or at least PlayStation 5, and they don't know where to start, what game would you recommend for this friend or person when they say, hey, I just got a PS5, what should I get? I can only buy one game, right? Like, that's the question. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to dive into the listener feedback, talk about that, and then, Jake, we're going to try to tackle that question. One Black Talon writes in, and he says, for your question, how about Astro's Playroom since it's free? My real answer is Ratchet & Clank on PS5. I think that's a nice one. Ratchet & Clank is like an all-ages thing, so you don't really, you're subjecting anybody, like anything that would be offensive with Ratchet & Clank. Astro's Playroom is definitely, I think, kind of what they want you to do. It's like Sony, you know what I mean? Like, Sony wants you to play the Astros thing. So, I mean, that's kind of I would say that's kind of it's a good answer, but it's kind of an obvious answer. But I think the answer of Ratchet and Clank, One Black Talon, I think is really spot on, and that's a game that I think is actually not talked about enough. Now, it didn't blow my mind when I played it, but it was really good, and I think it could be enjoyed by many people. Jake, do you have an opinion on what One Black Talon says there?
Well, I think the problem with this question is
you don't know the person,
demographic, right? If you're talking about something that literally anybody could play, from a child all the way up to an adult of any capacity, then I would say, yeah. I mean, Ratchet and Clank or Astro's Playroom would be a good option. I wish Astro's Playroom is amazing, but I wish that it was more of a fully fledged experience. It does, even though it's a full game. I mean, it's basically a glorified tech demo for the PS5.
Right.
So if they had made Astro's Playroom more of like a fully featured game, like in the vein of a Ratchet and Clank or something like that, then I would say that's probably a great answer. But I think that, we're assuming that the person in question can afford to buy one game.
Right.
So it's like, okay, your free square is Astro's Playroom. Obviously play that. But just to like learn about your PS5 and PlayStation history, and, you get a cool little experience while you're at it. But I think that Ratchet and Clank is a good answer for the general consumer. It's a good safe answer too, and it's a Sony IP, so it's good. It fits in a few different genres too. There's like some shooty parts, some platformy parts, some kind of, I think there's even like some racing kind of stuff going on in some of the levels. So like, it definitely has. It's got neat characters, and it's it's not too heavy of a story or anything. Right. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that pick. Yeah. So next up, Big Box writes in, and he goes, show topic answer, Rocket League. That's the Bob Marley of video games, a music/game basically every type of person likes, varying degrees. Super easy for most people to watch for 10 seconds and go, give me that controller. That being said, and this kind of plays into what you were saying, Jake. He said, I'd like to hear Fred and Jake come up with one question to ask the new PS5 owner before recommending a game. One question that you feel gives you the best insight into the type of gamer they may be. I know this is breaking the rules. P.S. Fred has to watch a YouTube short called Kyle Dunnigan on why he likes plane crashes. It's really educational. It may help Fred overcome his fears. I still haven't watched that, Big Box, but I will. But yeah, man, I like Rocket League as an answer. Not only because it's not locked to PlayStation owners only. I think that's crossplay. So like, I think you can play with other people. But again, I think Rocket League requires online play. So I'm not sure. And again, we're kind of venturing into what kind of a gamer is this person? So I guess to answer your question, so you say, what is one question that we would ask the new owner to help us make a decision? I guess, man, that's a great question. I think where I go with this is how like I'll probably ask like how familiar are you with gaming? You know what I mean? Like I would want to know like if they've never played video games before, or if like, oh, I used to play a long time ago, but I'm getting back into it, or no, I've been a gamer my whole life. I just picked up a PS5. Like that would be the decider for me to figure out what kind of game. And it would also probably help you determine their age based on that answer. Jake, what would you say? I don't know. Again, it really boils down to what type of gamer we're talking about. I don't know that I necessarily agree that Rocket League is a great only game that you can play on, or if it's the one game you can buy on PS5 or whatever. And it's not just because Big Box is my arch nemesis. I'm surprised he didn't recommend some fucking roguelike or something. Yeah, Returnal. I can get down with Returnal. Anyway, just joking, big box. But yeah, Rocket League, I'm of two minds about this. One, I think it's got one defining aspect of it that I think would make a great single purchase, and that is that it's sort of like infinite. Like, you don't have to worry about the game ever ending. It's like a sports game. Like, you just play it all the time, and even though you're playing the same thing all the time, your experience every time is different based on who you're playing against and all this kind of stuff. So if you're like someone who likes to play sports games, you would probably like a game like Rocket League. But on the other hand, if you're not skilled with controls and using a controller, or you're not that interested in competitive gaming, then Rocket League, it would be a horrible game for somebody to buy as their first game. So it's one of those things, and this I guess ties into his question of like, what would be your like, what question would you ask? One question would you ask someone who just bought a PS5? My question would not necessarily be like what your background is in gaming. I mean, your answer is sort of all encompassing because it's vague enough that like you could get a fucking life story which would tell you everything. But like but if I was going to be more specific about my question, it would be more along the lines of it would be a two-parter. Part one would be, do you want to play alone or with friends? And part two would be what do you want do you have a specific genre that you're interested in, or something like that, you know what I mean, where it's like I think, just speaking of my own experience, one of the most important questions is like, what do you want to get out of gaming? Like, are you looking for an escape where you can escape the world and other people and all this stuff? You want to play by yourself? Are you more interested in like a narrative immersive experience? Or are you looking for a social experience where you're trying to get all your buddies together and you want a game that you guys can play all the time? Because if that's the case, I'd say, yeah, like Rocket League or Call of Duty or Destiny or something like that. But like, if you're someone like me who occasionally will play an online game if you have to or are forced into that space, but generally you want to get away from the world whenever you're playing games, then a game like Rocket League would not fit that mold very well. So that's kind of where I sit with both, I guess, my question for the the new player or whatever, and the game Rocket League itself. I think Rocket League could be a great option if people, but it's a very specific game. Like, it's not, it's not like a Ratchet and Clank where it's like, you can almost be any type of gamer and like this game. Like, Rocket League is one of those games, like, if you don't like driving cars around and you don't like fucking sports games, you're going to hate Rocket League. So, you have to be the right type of gamer for that. Whereas I think Ratchet and Clank, if we're comparing listener feedbacks, not to pit these two against each other, but like we
should have given a prize.
I would say that you have a better chance of hooking anyone with a game like Ratchet and Clank maybe than Rocket League. Depending on the if you
depends
have
on the
no
player
idea.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. If you have no idea what the player's background is, turns out maybe it's like what was that dating game where it was like they were like separated by the screen?
Is that Clementine or something?
No. It was the one. It was like, I don't know if it was called the dating game or whatever, where it was like the bachelor or bachelorette would ask questions to three potential candidates that are on the other side of the screen.
Yeah,
and you can't
the
see
dating
them,
game or something.
But he picks.
This was called.
Yeah, but he picks who he wants to go on a date with based on the answers to their questions.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, without asking the questions or whatever, it's like you could pull the screen back and it's like a 65-year-old retiree that just want something to do in their free time in the middle of the day. Like they don't want to like get into this crazy hectic fucking competitive like car.
What game would be good for them? Like
game.
Tetris, maybe. Tetris.
Well, no, I think a game like Ratchet and Clank would fit well even with somebody like that because it's a game you could take your time with.
There's some humor in it.
Run around on your own, learn the mechanics. There's like an easy mode. Like you don't have to like the difficulty is not based on your competition. It's based on like how good the AI is based on a setting that you can change yourself. So like that's kind of where I sit with it, I guess. So to be a fence rider, Rocket League would be a great choice for a specific gamer, but maybe not the greatest choice for everybody.
Yeah. As a follow-up question that I would ask, I know we only get one, but I think if you ask somebody what their favorite movie is, would really clue you in on maybe what they're into.
It would maybe clue you in on that a little bit. Yeah, I guess I could see.
Or like what your favorite
that would give you at least some insight.
Yeah,
maybe
into some of their personal.
Because if someone's like, oh, my fucking favorite movie is The Expendables, then like they're like, okay, well they probably want a fucking Call of Duty type game or some other like high octane sort of.
Or if they say Top Gun.
Yeah, like maybe something. I'm not like lowbrow is not the
Indiana
right term,
Jones.
but like, yeah, some. If they said Indiana Jones, the obvious choice is Uncharted or Tomb Raider or something like that. But if they say like, oh, my favorite fucking movie of all time is like, yeah, or like if they're like, oh, I like Day of the Dead or something like that, then you can be like, oh, well, you might be into the Walking Dead Telltale games, or you might be into. If you want something a little more action-based, you could pick like, now these aren't PlayStation games, but something like Dead Rising or DayZ or something like that, or even what's the PlayStation exclusive one that Ben did?
Days Gone.
Days Gone. Yeah, something like that. I think that The Last of Us could fit that mold. I would like, but it's a little bit more of a intense interpersonal relationship kind of story though. So, but I don't know. We're getting a little bit in the weeds.
Yeah, so J1 responded, not that, don't worry, we're getting to you, J1, buddy. He says his game would be Death Stranding. The director's cut has many features, items, abilities, more than the original Death Stranding games. A third-person horror, action shooter, single-player game, etc. Plus, it's a Kojima Products game. It has celebrities in the game like Norman Reedus, Guillermo del Toro, Troy Baker, Mads Mikkelsen, Lindsay Wagner, and more. I think there is a nice cross-section of regular pop culture in this game. I also like the idea that it's not a forced online game, however, it is connected. So that would be kind of mind-blowing to maybe a new gamer. I do like this answer because he's not wrong in that, well, third person or first person, I don't think that really matters. But covering horror, action, shooting, and then also being single player mixed with online. And then, of course, the story's just bogus. I mean, like, if you've never played a game before and someone's like, here, play Death Stranding, you might think this game fucking sucks because all you're doing is walking around for a long time. But, like, if the story grips them, man, it could really, like, someone could come out on the other end of that and just be, like, mind blown. Like, I don't even know what that was. I just experienced something incredible. But I don't know if that's going to catch all, J1. But I do like your answer.
Yeah, I think that Death Stranding is an interesting, like, it's one of those things where it's like, do you want a set piece for your PlayStation 5? Something that's like technically impressive and also has a sort of wild, interesting story and everything. Any Kojima game is going to fall into that camp. Same as like a Last of Us or something like that. But my big hang up with Death Stranding is the gameplay. You have to get into the game quite a ways before it's more than literally just walking around trying not to fall over. And I get that the story drives the game and makes you want to stay in that world. But Death Stranding was divisive amongst people who are active, in tune, hardcore gamers.
Yeah.
So I wonder how it would sit with someone who's new to games.
I don't know, man. It's
kind of an interesting thing. I think people would be technically impressed with it, but is it the best option? I would say that it's a decent option, but if the person purchasing the game should know up front what the gameplay of it is. Because they might look at it and they might look at The Last of Us side by side and they're like, oh, these games are very similar in the way that they look when the character is walking around. But the actual moment to moment, like the actual gameplay and what you're doing and like how you get through the world and everything is very different. One of them is a lot of dead space, a lot of like ambience and music and walking around and like, doing these like really just kind of chill tasks. And sometimes very stressful in terms of like sneaking around the bad guys and stuff because you don't have a lot of offense. And then the other one is very like, survival. Like you're trying to find items. You're trying to kill the enemies before they see you. And all, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't think that Death Stranding is a bad option. I think that it's similar to Rocket League though, in that I think that there are a lot of people that would pick up this game looking at the trailers and seeing like, oh, this game looks fucking rad in a Kojima trailer. But when I sit down to play it, it's just like, what do you mean? Like for the first fucking 10 hours of the game, I'm just like walking around.
Yeah.
Like it, and I don't mean to distill it into like that simplistic of a notion. There's more to it, but if you're not into that gameplay, what they're doing with it, I mean, you're not going to have a very good time getting from story beat to story beat.
Yeah. Well, I think based on the answers and based on what you've said, Jake, and how Big Box has responded, I think maybe I failed a little bit with the challenge because I think that maybe we should have drilled down the kind of gamer or the person. I think we got a lot of good answers. I think a lot of people just tried to toe the middle area, with Astro's Playroom, Ratchet and Clank, Rocket League, a game that's not offensive, a game that's not going to step on anybody's toes. And then we had, Death Stranding, which can arguably be like one of the most innovative, creative, interesting, awesome games. It involves people that exist in a non-gaming world, like he was saying, like Norman Reedus and Guillermo del Toro and Kojima could even be argued. I mean, people who aren't into video games don't know what he is or who he is, but he does have this weird aura about him. But I guess where I want to go with this is I have an answer, and it's going to be super controversial. I gave it a lot of thought, and I've had multiple people ask me what games I would recommend, right? I had a guy that I worked with got a PS5. A guy that I've been playing Hero Quest with, Murph is getting a PS5 for Black Friday. He probably already bought it. He wanted to know digital or disc-based. I recommended disc. Shoot me if you want. But just because, and the other folks at the table that night also said disc. And then I had my sister recently got a PS5, and she wanted to know, hey, what game should I get? So I thought this was irrelevant, but I guess it does depend on the individual. So maybe that was a little bit of an oversight on my part, all transparency. But I will say that after thinking about it, the game that I would pick, I have to assume that the player is not comfortable with a controller. So you need a game that's not going to be super dependent or is going to offer a little bit of forgiveness with learning the PlayStation controller. You also want to have something that's going to keep them coming back. So to me, what that has always been has been a good story. And then you're also going to want to feel like you have agency over the story or over the game, but also feel like you're still required, like you're doing the things, right? So, dude, I know that it seems so stupid for me to say this, but I really think probably a game like The Quarry would be fantastic for a new gamer. Something to get them involved in. It doesn't require, I know there's some scariness to it, so if you're not a fan of horror or suspense, it's not going to fly. But for the mere fact of like, there's a lot of downtime where you're just walking around, right? So you get used to fucking moving the person. You get used to this. You get used to where the buttons are at. You're being told a story, and then the decisions you make in the game have agency and impact on what's happening. So you're feeling involved, and the story's interesting enough that you just keep coming back. And it's presented in a movie-like thing that most people or non-gamers would be familiar with a format like that. And I think that after that, it would be a really good place to branch off and try something different. Not necessarily The Quarry, even The Walking Dead, the Telltale series, Jake. You mentioned that a bit ago. I think that'd be a fantastic jumping on point for somebody. The first game by Supermassive Games that everyone had something to say about it. I forget what it was called now. Yeah, that's kind of where I would go. Like some sort of story-driven game that isn't super gamey, that would cause somebody to want to like never play a game again. Like something, because like, dude, like we take it for granted using that controller and how easy it is to use. But a lot of people, when they first pick that thing up, they have no clue what they're fucking doing. And it feels weird and foreign, and it takes a while to break the brain to figure it out. And I think a game that's like story-driven like that with maybe more quick-time actions in it than a regular gamer like us would probably prefer in a game would be a good jumping-on point. Now, I don't know of any games like that aren't scary or suspenseful, which is why I recommended The Quarry. But if I could think of one that maybe wasn't as like nail-biting or spooky, I probably would have went with that one. I mean, the first season of Walking Dead, I think hands down would change somebody's life maybe if they played that one. And it's easy enough to play that like it's, and it definitely would keep them coming back, I think. But it really doesn't harness any of the power of the PS5, So if you want like visual implementation that's like kind of impressive, The Quarry was pretty good. It was a little jank here and there, but it was pretty good. Jake, what game would you recommend? Dude, I don't have any of your volume. I got no volume from you. Can you hear me? Hold on.
Sorry.
There, he's back.
Yeah, I had to cough earlier. I put myself on mute. I'm sorry.
Scared me.
So I took this sort of question or task in thinking that this is like the days of yore when you got one fucking game or two games a year or something to play.
I love it.
And so you basically have this one game that you can afford, and you have to find a way to make the game work for you for an extended period of time, as well as be something that is enjoyable to play. It's presenting relatively new content to you regularly, all this kind of stuff. I have to kind of thread some needles here, and what I sort of came down with was, assuming you're not one of the random people that hate this IP, I would have to go with Hogwarts Legacy. Because
dude, our answers are so fucking off the wall. Go ahead.
Because so Harry Potter is a wildly popular franchise. There's really very little about it to be offended by, even if you're not like a hardcore Harry Potter fan or something like that. This doesn't take place within the movies, so it's a completely unique story and everything. You don't have to worry about knowing the books or anything like that. It's third person, so it's inherently a little bit easier to see and move around because you're not worried about that first person perspective. The game has a essentially a mode for people who are inept at using controllers. Like it gives you all the time in the world at enemies. Even if there's a group of them, they attack you one at a time. It's really hard to die. There's a lot of lock-on features and everything. Sarah, when she played this game, she went from not being able to hardly do the walk and look at the same time with the left and right stick.
Yeah.
To she played the whole game on this easy mode to the point where she got used to it enough by the time she was done that she moved up to like the higher difficulties.
Oh, wow.
And was able to kind of like get better at playing with those controls and everything. So it's a really great kind of, because it has this mode that lets people who have never played games before get used to the controls without feeling like they're being destroyed by the game. And like dying all the time because you can't look in the right spot and all that stuff. And plus, because it's open world, you can take your time just kind of running around the castle and looking around, and you don't have to worry about stuff attacking you all the time and getting dead basically like right away. And it's a huge open world, and there's tons of side content and tons of missions. And I think that it provides a lot of content for someone who doesn't have a game or can't buy a lot of games. And even if they're new to games, they can put it on this easy mode. If they're experienced in games, they can use a higher difficulty, and the combat actually becomes very complex, and it's really fun. There's a lot you can do in it, and there's a lot of great story elements in it. So it has that narrative thing down. So yeah, I think that's my pick. I mean, if I was gonna, so like the one like sort of, you know, audible that I would call is if someone is a mature gamer and they're more interested and they're capable of controlling the using the analog sticks to control, then I would probably pick something like Cyberpunk. Because that game is like fucking infinite, or like Destiny or something, where it's like they're constantly updating it with new material and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, if you're a new gamer and you want something, and we're talking about something that's a little bit more all encompassing that anyone can play, that has a ton of content, that's open. You've got all these different things you can do. I think I would go with Hogwarts Legacy as my choice.
I like it.
Assuming you don't fucking hate Harry Potter and the universe and everything.
Yeah, that's the other
thing. But if you're
thing,
not if you're not one of those people, then I think that this is like one of those, you would like, the Harry Potter is so wildly popular that like it's really hard to be offended by it, unless like you're one of those like hipsters that thinks it's cool to hate Harry Potter for no reason, or if there's something that genuinely offends you by it. Like, they're very few and far between. So some people just never got into it and they had no interest in it. Like that, I can understand that. But I think even those people could find something to like in this game.
Yeah. A runner up, and I don't know if you have a runner up or not, Jake, but a runner up for me would be any of the Lego games.
Yeah.
Just because you can't die. You can't die at them. I mean, you die, but you come right back. There's probably very little stress with them. You know what I mean? So you just kind of play through them.
Yeah.
You laugh a little bit. There's just some good humor in them. They're well made. Yeah. So anyways, I didn't specify that it needed to be a Sony IP, I don't think. But yeah, well, thanks for everybody for taking part of that. I don't know, that little question, whatever you want to call it. There's a word that I'm trying to find in the back of my mind for what I believe that we just had. Some sort of test or some sort of
exercise.
Thank you.
Thought exercise.
Yeah. Thanks for taking part of that thought exercise. That's exactly what I was looking for. All right. So as you guys know, we talk about the news every week on this show, and it's time to talk about the news. And first up, and this is strange. This news point I thought was like a less offensive thing than, remember that Kickstarter for like you wear a headset and it kills you if you die in the game. Like, it's like, I don't know that I want my games to be this visceral. like literally visceral, like you feel them. So there's a haptic feedback suit being made by OWO specifically for Assassin's Creed Mirage, and you put it on when you play the game, and you can feel getting like stabbed and stuff. I don't think it hurts, but I think you can feel the location of where you're getting hit in the game. And like when you're running and climbing, you can feel different things on your body. It's just weird, and I don't want my game to be real life. You know what I mean? And the suit goes from your shoulders down to your waist, and then it has like a little longer than long sleeves. So maybe just down to where your elbows start. And
a little longer than short sleeve. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, I said it backwards. Yeah. Just a tad longer than a short sleeve shirt where the sleeves go down what it looks to be like right before your elbows start. From the shoulder down. So I don't know how I feel about this. This was on Push Square. I thought it was interesting, to say the least. I don't know what a suit like this, number one, would cost. It says it's likely to cost around $500, and you get a free digital copy of the game. It's an officially licensed version of the suit or something, and it's got like, on the back of the suit, it says Assassin's Creed Mirage. And on the front, it says OWO, the company, and again, Assassin's Creed Mirage. But, like, it's really odd. It says on Push Square, it says, using the OWO system, you'll be able to feel your precise movements when you take down your targets. And it says, but beware, they're out to get you. Don't let your enemies get too close or you'll feel the consequences. You can feel impacts in parkour, and it's apparently capable of replicating a wide array of sensations, including severe abdominal wounds. So I don't know what that means. I mean, I'm not interested.
Nothing I love more than severe abdominal wounds while I'm playing games.
Yeah. So some of the comments on the Push Square site was like, it's really weird that this is for a flat screen game and not a PSVR 2 game, because that would make way more sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, it is kind of interesting. I mean, Jake, do you have anything to add about this? I mean, I have no interest in it, but I thought it was worthy of bringing up. I mean, we might, pushing into the future, we might see more stuff like this happening.
Yeah, I don't want this at all. Like, the last thing I want when I'm playing a game is to, like, feel like somebody's beating the shit out of me. I don't know. I understand the concept, like, of, they're like, oh, it adds to immersion or whatever, and, maybe you would like that. And it might be cool as, like a sort of a party thing. If you had one of those, circular treadmill things where you could actually walk, and you had one of these vests, and you had the VR system and everything, and it was like full on, then yeah, that might be pretty interesting experience, or at least a pretty interesting party trick, right? But when I'm sitting on my couch relaxing, just like running a dungeon in Diablo or something, the last thing I want is to feel like a fucking demon claw piercing my chest. Like it probably induce some kind of heart attack while I'm just like sitting on the couch or whatever. That just seems terrible to me. But some people, I can imagine this being popular with a certain sect of gamers.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, like you, man, I don't have an interest in this. Now, dude, it's only a matter of time. I mean, and not to get graphic or anything on the show, but like with the advent of VR, it's only a matter of time to start doing shit like this with porn and with like, the really violent games, and like, it's like, oh, it feels like you get shot, where like there'll be like probably a concussive like blast on your chest or something when you get hit, like boom, like it just fucking sends you back, or they implement like shock tasers and shit. Because there's always going to be a company out there that's going to try to push things to the next level. I just don't think that the majority of people want that shit, dude.
Until somebody like fucking dies because of it.
Yeah, that's just it. It just sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen, man. What do you have to sign to buy one of these? You know what I mean? You agree? Like, you're not...
Yeah, like, is this gonna fuck up somebody's pacemaker or something? That would be something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of risk to these kinds of things. I mean, can't we just keep it a little simple for a little bit longer before we get crazy? Anyways, next news point, dude. And this one's a big deal. Gustavo Santaolalla, the dude who does the music for The Last of Us, he indicated somewhere, it's always someone who doesn't know that they shouldn't say stuff. He indicated somewhere that in a new version of The Last of Us 2, you'll be able to make requests to him and his character in town and tell him what song you want him to play, and he'll play it. So he says this. Yeah, he's an older guy. He's done like Last of Us concerts and stuff, and like he's really appreciative, I think, of the work that he's gotten and being a part of this thing. But so it would appear that we're getting a Last of Us 2 remaster. It
could just be an update.
Yeah, maybe
like a PS5 update. It doesn't necessarily have to be a remaster, but it is kind of interesting nonetheless.
I guess it depends on who does it. Like if Naughty Dog's doing it, they're going to go fucking all out. Or they went all out on this. Like they don't know how to half-ass a thing. Like they can't settle down. So I don't know, man. I don't want it. I don't need it. I still haven't bought The Last of Us 1 remaster.
Yeah, me either.
And I love the game.
I don't know that I really need it. I've played the game enough times, but I've heard it's good, so
I'm sure it is. Sure it is. Dude, so adding on to this, the next news point that I had, and this is a big deal, Evan Wells, co-president of Naughty Dog, has announced that he's retiring and he's going to be leaving at the end of 2023. So there's some, I don't want to say conjecture or whatever, or maybe it's even solidified that Neil Druckmann now is going to just take over Naughty Dog. Is that true? I don't know what that means. I mean, unless they indicated something, I don't really know where he sits in the hierarchy of. Well, he's a co-head of the studio. So it says in a separate post, Neil Druckmann, this is on Push Square, it says Neil Druckmann said he would remain co-head of the studio through until Wells leaves and will also be head of creative. So, quote, that I will be able to invest in the future of our projects, creative vision, and overall business strategy. Allison Morey is being promoted to studio manager and head of the operations. Arnie Meyer becomes head of culture and communications, and Christian Geerling is the new head of technology. So it says Druckmann signed off on his post saying that he speaks for everyone at Naughty Dog when he says from the bottom of their hearts, thank you, Evan, for your knowledge, your love of the studio and the industry, and for the great care you took to ensure that our studio is always moving in the right direction. Inspire leadership will forever be a part of our DNA. So it's kind of a big deal, but I think they're in good hands. I don't know. Jake, anything on that?
No, I mean, Evan Wells has been there a long time, so he's shipped a lot of amazing games. So that's, I mean, if he's retiring, good on him. He's made plenty of money, I'm sure. He could probably ride off into the sunset and do whatever he wants to do. I don't think it's going to, hopefully it doesn't really affect the studio all that much. I mean, I'm not saying that it won't affect it at all, but I have to imagine that somebody within Naughty Dog is more than capable of filling that role if it needs to be filled.
I think he's in a really awesome position. Like, how cool would it be? Like, I mean, I think it is just retiring. I don't think there's any bad blood or anything over there. I like the idea of him just being like, all right, guys, I'm out. And then, like, 5 years from now, Neil calls Evan up, says, hey, you want to see what we're working on? I'm going to bring you in. I want to show you what we're working on. So he would have a chance to experience finally a Naughty Dog game with fresh eyes. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that would be so exciting. It'd be like if you were in Metallica your whole life, you're James fucking Hetfield, and you never had a chance to hear Enter Sandman for the first time ever. You know what I mean? Like, you never had a chance. I'm using Metallica loosely. I don't really give a shit about Metallica, but I'm trying to use, like, a band. Like, if you were in Queen and, you're robbed of the opportunity to appreciate all of Queen's songs the way that we all do if you're part of that band. Because you don't... I'm sure they enjoy writing them, and I'm sure they're You know, it's like the same thing as these directors. Like, I'm sure that they know that what they've done is good or they feel positive about it, but it will never hit the same way because they were creators of this thing. They were laboring over this.
Yeah,
thing.
they don't get to view it through the lens of a consumer.
Right.
They know all the nuts and bolts, right? So it's not as magical to them as somebody who doesn't know all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I could definitely see this being an instance where maybe he's a little bit excited to see what Naughty Dog will be. A little bit excited. I'm sure a little bit kind of sad too about, you know, what the next game is that comes out. And he probably already knows everything that they're fucking working on. So he's not going to be surprised by anything until, like, you know, 8 years from now.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, it could be interesting for him for sure.
This is where PlayStation Studios makes a movie about somebody kidnapping Evan Wells after he retires and trying to get all the goods from him. Like, dude, speak up. Tell us what they're working on. It's like some sort of like
that's the next Sony movie.
It's the next Ransom, yeah, with Mel Gibson or something. Like, he has to come save Evan Wells or whoever the fuck it was. I don't remember who it was. It's so funny. Yeah, I don't know, dude. But it would make for a funny YouTube video if someone could pull it off.
Definitely.
Evan Wells, we're not suggesting anything or giving anybody any ideas. It was just a joke. So anyways, the next news point is Genshin Impact. The voice actors for this game have been talking about how they haven't been getting paid for a few months, which doesn't look good on the studio. And it appears this is less the fault of the game studio and more the fault of the actual recording studio who's being held accountable for this issue. Now, I don't understand how this stuff works, and I always like peeking behind that curtain. So, Formosa Group is the name of the studio that did all the voice acting, recorded all the voice acting, got all lined up for the game, did all the stuff. And apparently the way that the structure works for this situation, for the setup for Genshin Impact, is that Genshin Impact, the developer, pays Formosa Group. And then Formosa then is supposed to be paying the voice actors. So I forget, it's Miyoho or something is the developer of Genshin Impact.
Mihoyo, yeah.
And so they came out and they were like, listen, we didn't even know you guys weren't getting paid because the money's coming from them. We're making our payments to them. So now Formosa is now in a situation where they might be losing this contract with the Genshin Impact stuff, and rightfully so. I mean, like, these people should get paid. You know, like, I don't know why this happened or what happened, but I always think that it's interesting because we just assume that it's the developer's fault, right? When you hear stuff like this. And the arrangement they have is they're paying this studio for the voice acting work, and the studio is not paying the actors. So there you go. Interesting.
Sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. It always sucks. Dude, this stuff is just so convoluted and kind of busy. You know what I mean? Like, it's never just simple, you know? It's never simple. Anything on that, Jake? You want to move on?
I mean, it sucks that if what Mihoyo is saying is true, it sucks that they got put in this situation. But, I mean, I don't know that this is necessarily... I mean, this happens all the time. It might not be necessarily related to the fact that this is a Chinese entity. Although, I don't know if the voice recording studio or whatever you want to call it, if they're a Chinese entity or not, or if it's a global entity or something that is doing this. But yeah, pay your fucking people. Like, I don't care what you pay them, but if you agreed on paying them a certain amount, make sure they get paid. They get paid before you do. That's the way it should work.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, man. Yeah, I don't know. It's dude, it's just weird to me. money in art is always weird, and this is why people try to make sure there are unions. And I get it, dude. I get it, but like you said, Jake, there's no reason why they shouldn't be getting paid. That game's making so much fucking money. And if they need to find a different studio to work with to get the voice acting done, then they just need to do that. So now the ball does kind of fall back on me, Yoho. And what are they going to do now that they know this information? They got to make it right. If they were cool, they would just send the voice actors some money and be like, "Here, sorry that this
That's
happened."
not their responsibility, though.
Sure, but they don't know that they're going to get it. You know what I mean? Like
I guess what it boils down to is who is the voice actors? Who is their contract with? If their contract is with MiHoYo, they just get paid by this other company. Then yeah, it's fucking MiHoYo's problem. But if MiHoYo, like, I don't know, it's a really, really sticky situation because I don't know that it's necessarily MiHoYo's responsibility to pay the actors, but it may or may not be their responsibility to make sure that their contractors are doing what they said they're going to do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know,
That's
man.
weird.
I don't know either. But I mean, if they wanted some good optics, they could just give all these voice actors some fucking money and be like, "Hey, we're trying to make it right."
I mean, they could do that and then turn around and sue that other company.
Well, that's just it.
Like,
yeah, right. Or at least don't give them the business anymore. You know what I mean? Like, if they didn't want it solved like ASAP, they would just pay these fucking voice actors, hire another studio to do the stuff, and just be like, "We're severing our ties with you. You fucked up."
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Oh, man. That's tough.
Money's money, dude. But I know they have a ton of money over there. They have to. The next news point, which I think is really interesting, is we finally got a full-on trailer for the Twisted Metal game. For the Twisted Metal TV series that's going to be airing exclusively on Peacock. Jake, did you have a chance to watch this?
I'll be honest, I didn't, and it's only because when I first looked at it, I thought it was the fucking trailer we already saw.
No, it's a new one. It's like 2 minutes long.
So I guess I have not seen it. Like, what's different from the trailer that we saw before?
Well, there's story
from the
beats.
casino?
There's story beats now. So I guess what it is it's post-apocalyptic, and they are considered runners. So they're transporting stuff from location to location, and essentially that's the vibe. That's the world that they exist in. They're transporters. So it's like The Last of Us with cars.
I mean,
it's fucking overplayed.
Basically, I mean, I could have almost told you that's what the movie said it was going to be about. Like, I don't anticipate there being a whole lot of like. I almost like don't even care what the story's about. I just want to know if it's going to be entertaining or not.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's only so many things you can do with the fucking Twisted Metal. Like, they're driving cars and they're fighting people. Like, yeah, it's either gonna be like some sort of like arena combat thing, or they're gonna be trying to transport something, and it's like fucking Rat Race or something. There are very few things they can do with that. But I don't know. I mean, maybe it's gonna be great.
I don't know. I'll watch it. I'll watch it. So long as I have Peacock, I'll watch it, dude. Why not? Tell us what I got going on. All right. Next news point that is interesting. Sorry if we sound a little, just a little out there today. I know the listeners, Jake said he wasn't feeling super good, and then I'm tired as shit from this weather and stuff. Just the humidity really has me like drained. But promise to give you an episode every week that we can, and we're doing it. We're doing it. But the next thing that's interesting is so December 6th is going to finally see the release of the PlayStation Access controller, which is the controller that, it's going to have a $90 price point. Seems reasonable to me. And it's going to be the controller for folks who maybe need additional assistance when gaming. So It's a customizable controller. So what do you think, Jake?
I think it's awesome. I'm happy to see that it's coming out relatively imminently. I mean, it's something that they announced this year, so it's cool to see that it's coming to market so quickly. And I'm really excited to see what people do with it, either within the community of people that might need some extra assistance, or from people who may just like a different way to play games. You know, it's very possible that we see this thing take off in like a almost like a
unpredictable way, yeah.
You know, like a back alley kind of thing where regular gamers are using them in interesting ways because they find that, like, it's like there's people that do like the fucking claw grip when they play first person shooters and stuff. It's like people can find really stupid ways that work awesome for them to play video games on regular controllers. I can't imagine what they could do with something as customizable as this.
Yeah, I agree. So if you can see my DualShock 4 I have here, I know that some people, like, this is the R button, right? So some people, when they play shooters, will not just shoot like this, but they'll do like two fingers, like click 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 click, and then just go, and like somehow it registers in multiple shots. Have you seen people do that? Like they like drum, they do like this weird fucking like drum thing on it. It's so weird, dude. I don't know. I've seen videos of people just like hacking the DualShocks or the DualSense however they can to be quicker. And it'll be interesting, like you said, to see, like, well, if we can have two R2 buttons, one here and one here, what the fuck does that do?
Yeah, I gotta be honest. The more I know, this is kind of deviating from the accessibility controller, but the more I use the DualSense, the more I wish Sony would just let me use my DualShock 4. Like, I don't understand why they don't have DualShock 4 capability in these games. Like, just fucking disable in the like in the game, just disable the fucking haptic shit. Like, I don't know why I can't just use my DualShock 4. It's got a touchpad, it's got everything else. Control wise, it's exactly the same. The only thing that's different is it doesn't have the HD rumble, and it doesn't have the adaptive triggers. I'm sorry. And I guess it doesn't have the microphone in the fucking controller, but nobody ever wants that anyway. So it's because it's not uncommon for people to struggle or have issues playing with the DualShock or the DualSense for long periods of time. I never had problems playing with my DualShock 4, but I regularly, like, my hand cramps up on the DualSense. Occasionally, like, I'll have one or two fingers go numb when I'm playing it. Like, it just is, there's ergonomically, and I'm not the only one. This is a thing that happens, like, to a lot of people. So there's something ergonomically wrong with the DualSense.
Oh, man.
It's just not, it's not widespread enough for Sony to really acknowledge. And I just think that it would be nice of them to just straight up let me use my fucking DualShock.
Yeah, I mean, they have two nice controllers. I do prefer the DualSense, but yeah, you're right. Like, why don't they let you use the DualShock?
Dude, it's so weird. Every single time I pick up, I don't almost never pick up my DualShocks anymore because I don't have my PlayStation 4 hooked up. But like, if I'm cleaning up the living room or something and I happen to pick up my DualShock 4 to, like, move it or something, every time I pick it up and hold it in my hand, I'm like, man, this feels so much better than the DualSense. I know it sounds weird and some people probably think I'm crazy, but, like, the DualSense is just too big. It's too big. I like the weight of it, but it's too large. And the battery life is like 15 minutes on it. So, like, first things first, get a great adaptive controller out there. They're going to do that on December 3rd or 6th or whatever you said it was. 9th.
6th.
Next order of business, let me use my fucking DualShock 4. That's my adaptive controller. Or it's the accessibility controller, right? The adaptive controller is a Microsoft.
Correct. It's an accessibility controller. It's called the PlayStation Access controller. Yep. So nice. yeah, dude. Interesting though. I think your take on the DualSense, while it may be ergonomically not great for everybody, I think it's still a hot take, dude. Because outside of the battery life, I think most people find the controller to be agreeable with their hands. With the haptics, and people, I don't know, maybe some people hate the haptics. I like it. I do.
I turn them all off. I fucking hate it.
I don't know. I
hate it so much.
I like it.
It that's another thing that makes my hands hurt. Like, your fingers get tired pulling that shit in, especially if you're playing a really intense game. Like, I really don't want it. And I think it's interesting, and it's gimmicky, and it's cool, and some people really like it. But, like, if I'm playing Destiny or something, there's no fucking way I'm turning that shit on.
Adaptive triggers.
No competitive gamer is. They hate it. Because it literally impedes your ability to be effective in a competitive setting. It slows you down,
yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Like, I understand that a lot of people like it. But I just wish that there were more. Like, I feel like there should be, you should almost be able to play it any way you want. Like, I don't know why. The one thing about the DualSense that I like a lot is the HD rumble. Everything else I really don't give a shit about. But it just seems weird to me that, like, the DualShock 4 isn't included as a controller that you can use unless you're playing a PS4 game. I don't know. It's just weird to me. That's all.
Fair enough. All right. Well, we're gonna move on. Good little conversation. The next one is interesting. I noticed one thing about this coming up with the show notes, and it's very possible that this is something that nobody's caught on to yet but us. So Don't Nod, their upcoming title, Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden, got a new trailer, and it now has a release date. The release date is November 7th, 2023. It's coming out this year, folks.
That's wild.
Before Thanksgiving. And that's going to be a nice little spot, I think. And this game looks awesome. So as I was writing down the timestamps, I wrote Banishers, Gone, Ghosts of New Eden. It spells gone. Now we're talking about ghosts, and we're talking about spirits. Do you think that is an intentional acronym?
Maybe. I mean, it definitely.
Banisher's gone. Because you're banishing something, right? Getting rid of something.
It sounds kind of stupid when you say it that way.
Well, that's why no one says it, but.
And I really hope that doesn't become a thing, like fucking SNES or something.
Dude, you play Banisher's
But
Gone.
like, yeah, I definitely am not playing that game if people start talking like that.
Ghosts of New Eden.
I'm obviously just joking, but that game does look interesting for sure. I am. You said it's November or something, early November.
The 7th.
Yeah, that's a nice little time, I think, because you've got Starfield in early October, or sorry, September, and then you've got Spider-Man in October.
Yes.
And then you've got this in November. Yeah, you're probably going to be going up against Call of Duty or something, but I mean,
who isn't?
Does that really matter?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not with a game like this. No. This is
I wouldn't think so, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Dude, this game's on my radar. It looks good. It looks really good. So, all right. Well, go scope that trailer, Jake, if you haven't, because it looks pretty cool. Final Fantasy 16 news. And this is a little interesting because this is the game that Square Enix came out of, and they were like, listen, we've been polishing the shit out of this for a year. We're not releasing any patches. It's going to be good as is. No DLC, nothing. Well, the game comes out, and then they patch it. And now, it would appear that Square Enix may have misread their situation. So it would seem now, due to the reception of the game, that studio is now indicating that DLC is being considered.
Oh my god. Well,
Why?
I suppose.
I mean, why can't we just have like one exception to the rule and just have this be a standalone game? We don't know that it's being made, but
can you just like not fucking lie? Like I don't understand. Like to me,
everything they've said about this game, dude,
be or whatever, but don't say that shit. If you think you might eventually at some point want to do DLC, like just don't say you're not doing it. Like it just, to me, it's fucking annoying. Like I don't know that it really matters one way or the other, but like now, like to me, you say that so that you can drive sales at launch, because some people might wait until the DLC before they pick up the game.
If you make this statement, you're pretty much backing yourself into a corner where it's now going to be expected. They shouldn't have even said that they're considering it. They should have just kept it internal and then surprised the fuck out of everybody and been like, do like a shadow drop and be like, oh, by the way, we have like a 6-hour DLC for this game everybody now loves. Surprise.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah. Anyways, just want to let you know, I have yet to purchase this game or play it. I'm interested in it. This last news point, guys, is really kind of interesting. And in fact, it's probably the coolest news point all week. It's a new idea. This is a new idea. Finally, someone has a new idea. So there was an old game called KARATEKA. And it's a karate game, and it's an old game. So if you go to the link here on Push Square, dude, this is absolutely cool. They are making a documentary dedicated to karateka, and this game was actually designed by the original Prince of Persia creator. And this game used like, what are they? Rotoscoping, like they would like do pixel work based on film, of people running or something. So you still might be muted, but yeah, they do this with this game, and it was one of the first games to ever have it, and it's a beloved game, and they're doing a documentary that's playable.
What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's fucking rad. Please, and give it to me for all my favorite games. So I'm gonna read. So it makes sense because it's for a game that was ahead of its time to begin with. It says this is an intriguing take on a documentary, and it's going to allow, this is from Push Square, going to allow players to experience multiple versions of the game in addition to the story of how it all came together. Developed by Digital Eclipse, The Making of Karateka is the first entry in the studio's planned Gold Master series, which are independently produced projects with the intention to celebrate the designers and studios which shape the current gaming landscape. Last year's Atari 50, the anniversary celebration, was apparently something of a prototype, which performed well enough for further and more specific exploration. They say, quote, this is from Digital Eclipse. They describe this title. They put it in quotes. They say, discover how Karateka was made through an exhaustive archive of design documents, playable prototypes, all new video features. Like walking through a museum, you can explore the interactive timelines at your own pace. It'll include multiple entire versions of the game, including a freshly remastered take made especially for this occasion. I love this idea, dude.
It's interesting.
Could you imagine playing like a prototype of Uncharted and like being able to read like documents, like emails and shit that the company released about the making of the game? Different ideas they had, and maybe sections that never showed up in the game. They're like, yeah, these are like not like full snips, but they're good enough that you can fucking try to play it. Now, granted, it would be way easier to do this with a game like Karateka. outside of knowing how old this game is, would be really hard to get some of this stuff up. But I mean, they could probably just reprogram the shit. It's a pretty basic looking game, but to have some sort of inside access behind the curtain is kind of like the theme of this show. I've been saying that a lot, but to get behind the curtain and be able to like do like this interactive documentary and play different versions or variants of a game that you love just seems like forward thinking to me. Like it seems really interesting for the sake of documenting in the very nature of it, but for posterity's sake and for, you know, archiving this thing. It just makes sense. I don't know. Sure. Why not? Jake, anything?
I think this is a really neat idea. Do we happen to know if there is going to be some sort of like guide? Like are they guiding you through this, like, and explaining things to you and kind of all of that, or is it just like, here's a bunch of shit, just kind of go through it however you want?
I haven't seen a trailer or anything about it. Karateka documentary. I don't know. Actually, there's an announcement trailer, the making of Karateka. I mean, I could pull it up. I kind of don't want to because it's going to fuck up with the audio of the show, but I'll watch it.
It's fine.
It's an interactive documentary is how they're describing it. So I don't know how it works. But if you're curious, there is a trailer for it.
I do wonder if it's similar to like one of those releases. Like I think for the new Metal Gear Solid collection that's coming out this year, they're gonna have like, you know, a bunch of, you know, artwork, and they're gonna have like the original Metal Gear game, like multiple versions of it will be included, and they're gonna have like all this shit involved. Like, is it more of just like, oh, they're selling you the game and it's gonna have a bunch of stuff, or is it like more towards the documentary side where it's like, yeah, you can sit here and play this game for a while if you want, but the point of it is like, oh, there's this video that it, you know, is a documentary about the game, and then like, oh, it like drops you into this game and you can play it for a bit, and then they have a, you know, a section where it's a bunch of articles or something. Like, I don't know, like it's I think that this is a cool idea in concept, but I need to see it in practice to know really what I'm getting myself into.
I kind of would like to think that it's like you can play the documentary and they start talking about, whoa, one of the first idea when Joe Schmo got a hold of me and he showed me what he was working on. I couldn't believe it. And we built this prototype, you know, back in '83, and, you know, it was really weird looking. And then, like, while he's talking about it, he goes, in fact, if you want to see what we saw, go ahead and press the blah, blah, blah button, and then you press it, and then you get to fucking see it or move it or something. And then when you come out of it and be like, so you can now understand. Yeah, the guy comes back on. So now you understand what we were talking about when we had games that looked like this and this and this, and then we got that. It was like, this is why, right. You know, and then like our first version of the game was a little rough around the edges. Go ahead and press the square button and you can try that out, you know. And then you can see how the character didn't really move really well right there, you know, feel kind of weird. Like that would be fucking so immersive and awesome. Like, oh, I'm like fucking here with the guy telling me, you know. I don't know what it's
going to be.
Yeah, that'd be
cool
like.
As shit.
Yeah. It's probably going to be a far cry from that, but it's probably just going to be a bunch of fucking stuff that you can just click on and look through. I don't know. But I don't know. I hope not. I hope that's not the case. But anyways, a new version of that game would be pretty exciting too, I think. Specifically.
Yeah, definitely.
Jake, if there were new games on the Push Square site coming out this week, I didn't snag them and I didn't find them. I went back to look, so I don't really have anything else for the show. We can do a quick closing. I think that pretty much wraps it up for the show. It's a little shorter this week. Like I said, it was kind of a rough week for me, and I think Jake is, you know, wanting to get some rest. So I hope you feel better. Is there anything and I did start the episode off saying 284, so let this be a public announcement that this is actually episode 285. I had the wrong notes pulled up, so it'll say 285 when you're streaming it or looking at it. So I don't have anything else to really say except I'm worn out, dude, and I'm gonna go. I got on the guest list to go see a band at the Cleveland Beachland Ballroom on Tuesday. My buddy's opening for a band I used to listen to a long time ago called Braid, and they're doing this anniversary tour for the Frame and Canvas record, and Ryan got me on the guest list, so I'm real excited to go to that. Tuesday sucks because I got to interview people we're hiring more people at work, and I'm on an interview panel all week this week, so I'm gonna be really tired interviewing people, but it's something I couldn't pass up. So that's all I really got going on. But outside of that, dude, anything you'd like to say before we close out?
No, I don't know, man. I'm like I said, I haven't felt good all day, so like I'm in kind of a bit of a brain fog here. So I don't really know what to say other than I'm gonna probably go get something to eat and then just kind of lay on the couch until I fall asleep, and hopefully I feel better in the morning. Otherwise, I might not be going to work.
Yeah, I hope you don't feel worse.
Yeah,
I highly recommend, Jay, because I know you had a little interest in it. The Alan Wake remaster is definitely worth your time. You should check.
Yeah,
it out.
I already claimed it, and I intend on playing it before the Alan Wake 2 comes out. I think it comes out in October, so that'd be a nice little game to play. But we'll have to see, because as soon as I get done with Diablo, if I do jump into... Dude, all these games that are coming out are just like, can we just get a fucking short game? Like, seriously.
The Dead Space remaster is probably short, right?
What's that?
The Dead Space remake?
I mean, it's, yeah, whatever the original is. So it's, maybe between 10 and 20 hours. But, like, I'm playing Diablo now. I'm fucking 35 hours into that and probably still have another 5-10 hours to go. And then I'm going to jump into Final Fantasy 16, which is probably like 40
hours.
or 50 hours. And then after that, I'm probably going to jump into Starfield, which is like infinite amount of time. And then after that, it's like, okay, Alan Wake. Okay, that's probably going to be a pretty quick game. But then after that is Spider-Man, which is open world, and it's probably going to be fucking 40 hours. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, man. I would love for one of these companies like Sony or whatever to just have the fucking balls to release a game like Uncharted again, where it comes out and it's like AAA, like big budget,
7 hours long,
fucking $70 game, and it's like 12 hours long.
Yeah,
that's like perfect. But I don't know. We'll see. I know that I'm fucking, first world problems kind of shit here, complaining about stuff that's really not a problem, but it really makes it hard to kind of keep up with what's new when everything that you play is so long.
Yeah, especially when you suffer from the hurdle of switching between games at any given time. Like I really don't like to switch games in mid-progress. You know what I mean? I don't like relearning controls, and then heaven forbid the new game I pick up is more interesting and I don't go back to the old one. Then I've got like an unplayed game on my back burner, and now to go back to it, I got to restart from the beginning. So everything I did was a waste of fucking time. And it's like, dude, you just got to stick with what you pick. And that is the trouble now. Some of these games that we both really want to play are longer. And that's the thing with this podcast. And the listeners know that we while we don't always play the most current games, we eventually do get around to the games that we want to play, and we eventually do have some opinion on them. I just don't think that I'll be dipping my toes in a Final Fantasy 16 until maybe the winter or something. I don't know. It took me 2.5 years to play 7 Remake, so I don't know. We'll see.
Guess we'll find out.
Yeah, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in to episode 285 of PS is Awesome PlayStation Podcast. We do this every week. You can watch us on YouTube. You can write us on YouTube. We do prefer that you write us on our Patreon and go subscribe to that for $1 a month. And, that's great value if you think about it. Where else can you spend $1 and get 4 free podcasts? You're not getting anything, but you are getting a sticker for $1, and we pay for shipping. So it's our way of saying thank you. So we actually lose money the first month that you subscribe, because when it's all said and done, we're losing probably like, I don't know what's cost to ship a sticker, at least 60 cents. And then the sticker definitely costs more than 60 cents or 40 cents to make. So yeah, we're losing money on your first month. So we hope that you do that and stick with it. It's never expected, but we always appreciate it. We've always said that. But we do appreciate our listeners, our very loyal listeners, as it seems. And thank you so much for tuning back in. And we'll be back with full vigor next week. And hopefully I'll have more to say about Alan Wake. And I can't promise I'm going to be getting through Alien Dark Descent anytime soon. Jake, that's it. So,
nice.
I guess, where is my closing? There it is. Like Tacoma, Tactics Ogre, and Tales of Iron. P.S.
P.S.
This is awesome.
This is awesome.